Hello and welcome to the WB Mason Coach Report with head women's lacrosse coach Shannon Smith. Welcome, Coach.
Thanks for having me.
Coach, 2 games on the schedule last week. Great back and forth game with Rutgers, and then a game against Ohio State over the weekend. Let's talk about the Rutgers game. One of the longest rivals and oldest rivals in program history. Can you just talk about that game a little bit?
Yeah, it was a really hard fought game. I thought it was one of our better games that our team has played. It was just that we had some costly errors towards the end of the game, both defensively and offensively, that really cost us that game towards the end. But overall, I thought we played a solid lacrosse game, that we got better. Just still some areas that we need to tighten up a little bit. But I was proud of our team after the Rutgers game, and Rutgers played really well. They had some unbelievable dodgers on the attacking side of the field that we just needed to handle a little bit more defensively. And offensively, we needed to finish a couple more of our possessions in the second half that we had.
Obviously, we've talked all year about Lindsay Scott, and she gives you what she gives you every game. That game, the Rutgers game, you got some great contributions out of Drew Shapiro, Carolyn Carrera, and Becky Conto in their different areas. Can you talk about the three of those efforts?
Yeah, they're playing really well. Carolyn Carrera is one of those dynamic players that offers us a lot through the transition game, especially on the defensive side of the field. She's just a really hard worker. Becky Conto's really putting it together. I think she's starting to really get back healthy and get her legs underneath her. She hasn't played a full season being at Hofstra yet, and I think you're starting to see her only get better every game. And Drew Shapiro's really starting to figure out her way on the offensive side of the field and putting points away. And I think another player who goes under the radar a lot is Carly Ancona. I think Carly Ancona has played 3 of her best complete games for us. It's nice to see. I think she's really starting to get her legs back underneath her from her injury that ended her season last year. So I think she's playing really well for us, both offensively and defensively as well, along with Becky, Drew, and Carolyn.
One of the strengths of the team all year leading into that, and especially that Rutgers game, has been your draw controls. What has made this team so successful in the draw control circle?
I think just focusing for those 10 to 15 seconds, and Becky and Carolyn have worked really hard. They work on it every day with their draw control, so I give them a lot of credit. And everyone's doing their job. They're boxing out. They know where we want to put the ball, and which makes our job a little bit easier. And we're going to need to continue to win possessions like that, because it alleviates the ball being on the defensive side of the field, and it gives the attack more possessions to score.
Sunday you took on Ohio State, your third-ranked opponent of the year. Just give us an recap of that game and what you thought was good and bad.
Yeah, slow start killed us, and I think that's something that in any of those games that we've played, teams get off to such a quick start on us that it hurts us. And then offensively, I thought we could have helped a little bit more by finishing their first 3 or 4 possessions that they had. We only had 7 possessions in the first half, and we let 4 of them go and finished the last 3. But we're asking the offense to play nearly perfect. We're asking them to go 7 for 7 on their possessions, and I think they could have. But we also need help on the defensive side of the field. They need to start making some stops for us.
Yeah, the time of possession in the first half was lopsided in favor of Ohio State due to the draw controls. But the shots were sort of even in the game, though, like you said.
Yeah, they were even, and you nailed it right there. The draw controls we really struggled with. Carolyn and Becky didn't really show up for us, and I thought that Amanda Seekamp did. She's a player that hasn't really taken the draw for us, but she stepped in there, pulled the ball hard, and allowed Ohio State to struggle a little bit. But hats off to Ohio State. They did a job well done on the draw circle.
In the second half, despite the huge deficit, your team was still able to rally, end the game on a 5-0 run. And like you mentioned, Amanda Seekamp with 4 draw controls in the final few minutes. Just talk about the efforts that you saw your team, especially late in that game with the outcome not in doubt.
They're really resilient. I mean, if their backs are against the wall, they're going to come out fighting. They don't give up, and I think that's the biggest thing about our team is that they keep fighting game in and game out. They fight hard at practice. So that's something that we're going to need, because the most important part of our season is coming up. I think we've had a really tough schedule, and we're going to get ourselves refocused for our conference that starts after Columbia.
You just mentioned it. Columbia this weekend, about a 2-week stretch with only 1 game scheduled before you start conference. Talk about how important not only this weekend's game is, but this stretch of some additional practice time, and like you talked about before, this week being spring break.
I think it'll be huge. Spring break is nice right now. It's an important part for the season for us, and I also think you said it, 2 weeks. We got a 2-week stretch before we get into conference, and I think we really have to focus on Hofstra these next 2 weeks. We have to get better in certain areas of our game right now, and I think that if we can start playing complete games both offensively and defensively for a full 60 minutes, we're going to be okay. We have a good team in there. We're just not clicking right now, and we're going to continue to work at it and plug away, and hopefully the pieces of the puzzle start fitting together.
And most importantly, does this 2-week stretch allow, you guys have been decimated by injuries a little bit this season, does this allow for any of those players to get back and onto the field, or?
Yeah, it'd be nice to get some of these players that are injured for us right now back healthy, and I think that's huge. We've struggled with injuries, and I think that something that we're going to have to overcome, and we need other players to step up for us as well.
2 keys. What's the key to winning on Saturday against Columbia, and then what's the key over the next 2 weeks to get ready for conference?
I think for Saturday against Columbia, we need to execute and we need to win the draw controls. It's the old saying that my coach used to say, "Win the draw control, rule the world." So, she's right. You win the draw controls, you have the possession. You don't have to worry about playing on the defensive side of the field. You give them a break. So, I think we need to execute. We need to win the draws.
Well, Coach, thank you and good luck this weekend.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us on the WB Mason Coach Report with head women's lacrosse coach Shannon Smith.